Hey, Big Ten Huddle, where I'm your host, JR. We're presented and brought to you by FanDuel and appreciate you tuning in to listen or watch the Big Ten Huddle every single day. Seriously, we are hardly ever take a day off here. We love talking Big Ten basketball, Big Ten football. We talk about all the different teams in the Big Ten. Sometimes we talk about the team specifically. Sometimes we talk about the teams in, a big segment. But if you would, please do hit that like button, subscribe, and be sure to comment your thoughts down in the YouTube comment section below, or give us a 5-star rating and review on the podcast platform that you are currently listening on. Also, I'm very glad to announce that Grass Cutter 1963 is the winner of our home field giveaway. So Grass Cutter, I went ahead and replied to one of your comments under our video that you won. Check your notifications for next steps on how to receive your free home field apparel. But even if somebody out there is watching this like, oh man, I wanted to win home field apparel, no worries. If you didn't win, and you want some, don't worry about it. You can either comment below or give a 5-star rating on the podcast to be entered in as a contestant in February, or just use the link down below in the description. There's a home field affiliate link down there that you can utilize and help you get to home field. Okay. Big episode for you today as we're going to discuss 3 key topics. First, we just had National Signing Day on Wednesday. That for football, not a lot of teams signed players, but Penn State did, because of their class kind of, falling apart when James Franklin was fired and stuff like that. So we're going to cover their final class a little bit with our guy, Chris. Next, Curt Cignetti did an interview with Urban Meyer on his podcast. I have a few thoughts and want to go over that. And then the Fox CEO, Lachlan Murdoch, gave an interesting answer to a question on Wednesday, and I want to discuss what he said and what it might mean going forward in the Big Ten. So let's go ahead and bring in Chris here, our guy here with us. Chris, thanks for coming on once again. Penn State recruiting recap here after National Signing Day. Of course, Chris is here to talk through the class with us and everything. Chris, how you doing?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Doing well, doing excellent. Appreciate having you here. So let's get down to business. The Penn State 2026 recruiting class, you could describe it in a few different ways, but one of the words that I would use is just plain chaotic. I don't think that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just kind of chaotic. Their group was near top 10. They had key elite in-state players committed to the program. Guys like Kevin Brown were committed as well, and they had an early surge for with the former staff as well. Then the season kind of, came in, and James Franklin gets fired. The class kind of falls apart. Obviously, we have covered the poaching that's gone on with this class, and not just with Franklin, but with the recruiting staff and other things like that as well. It doesn't mean that it was the wrong decision to fire Franklin, but there were, I suppose, consequences, I think you might say. But now the class is finished after National Signing Day. They have 15 players, Chris, and we're not going to talk about all 15 guys, but I do want to turn it over to you. Who are some of the most impactful guys, or the guys that are maybe underrated in this class that you're excited for Matt Campbell to get his hands on?
Well, before I get into the guys, I briefly just want to say this, that I think this class, what Matt Campbell did with this 2026 class was incredible. I think he did, all things considered, what the hand he was dealt, did a phenomenal job. Because when he started off with this class, he only had one recruit signed in Jackson Ford. That was it. And when he got hired so late, I would say probably 90% of the 26 guys were already committed and verbal. So, but what he did a phenomenal job. And, when you go look at the rankings and stuff, I would advise people to use On3 and, which is Rivals, and look at their rankings. It's been proven that their hit rate is the best. So some of the guys I would start off with is Elijah Reeder. I think was the gem of the class. And he started off, he's from New Jersey. He's 6'6", 210 pounds. He is, a lot of people compared him to Chaz Coleman, which I understand the comps. He's explosive off the ball. He's got great length, a very good burst, which you can't teach. Either have that quick initial burst, which I think is very important. And he's a football player. He's aggressive. I'd be careful with the comps to Chaz Coleman, because Chaz Coleman came in at 240 pounds at Penn State, which is why he was able to play his first year. but this kid's only 210 pounds, so he's going to need a year in the weight room. But he has a lot of the, similar fluid movement skills as Chaz Coleman, and just the length, the burst, the athleticism. And, why this class really epitomizes what Matt Campbell has done so well at his time at Iowa State and what he's been known for. And that's finding under the radar guys. And he does a great job of finding the under radar guys at these hidden gems and coaching them up. And for instance, I just mentioned Elijah Reeder. On 3, Charles Power, who's like the main scouting director at On 3, he had a top 10 of the biggest steals of the class. Elijah Reeder was number 9 on the list. And Elijah Reeder everybody thinks all-star rankings don't matter, whatever. Listen, I love just to show you how good Matt Campbell is at finding hidden gems. There is about 4 guys, 3, I know at least there's 3 definite, maybe 4, that were all just kind of average 3 stars that in the last rankings update all got bumped up to a 4-star. And that's a credit to Matt Campbell and his staff finding these hidden gems. So Elijah Reeder was like an average 3-star. Now he's a 93 4-star on 3, and he even got bumped to a 4-star on 24/7. The other guy I want to mention, and Charles Powers mentioned this in that this guy was kind of, I guess you could say, would have been an honorable mention that almost made the list as far as the biggest steals, is Josiah Zayas. Josiah Zayas is 6'2", 200 pounds. He's listed as an athlete. I think his best position is corner, to be honest with you. But he was another guy that was an average 3-star. I turned on his film. He immediately popped on film. He looks, I don't have an official 40 time on him, but he's just running right by guys. I mean, he looks like your typical big-bodied X-receiver, good vertical threat, downfield threat. I mean, these are like legit 4-star talents that went under the radar that Matt Campbell was able to find. Tyrell Chapman out of New Jersey, 6'2", 180, 185 pounds. He played quarterback. He's going to be a corner. I think that's what they recruited him as. He played quarterback on offense. One of those things where, a lot of high school teams will just put their best athlete at quarterback to have the ball in his hands. Another 4-star talent. He's another guy that was just an average 3-star who got bumped to a 4-star by On 3. I think he's going to be a corner. Maybe there's a chance he gets moved to safety. Just another high-level athletic guy. Even at quarterback, you see him just outrunning everybody. It just looks like he has good speed. In coverage, he's very aggressive. And having that length at 6'2" as a corner is that's just a huge plus. Coaches love that. Next, I'll hit up on Case Evans. I know you mentioned Peyton Falzone backstage, but I actually want to talk about Case Evans. Case Evans is a 6'3", 200-pound quarterback out of Texas. Now, he's just an average 3-star. He's not ranked high. He's probably down to I think 50th something ranked quarterback. But I'll tell you this. I'm super impressed by Case Evans. If it was me, this guy would be a borderline 4-star. You watch Rocco Beck's film and you watch Case Evans' film, and he looks like a Rocco Beck clone. His style of play, his arm talent, his arm strength, and he's bigger. He's a mobile quarterback. He could run. He's got actually better size than Beck, that's 6'3". And one of his strengths is he throws a beautiful deep ball. Matt Campbell teams love a vertical passing game. They love the deep ball. And this guy throws a beautiful deep ball. And I'm pretty high on him. I really think he's an under the radar guy, definitely underranked. Next, we'll go with Bryson Williams out of Nebraska. So another guy who was, I believe, just a 3-star. I don't think he got a bump to a 4-star, but he's a safety recruit, 6'4", 180 pounds. So really good size, really good length, fast, athletic player. He ran a 10.8 100-meter dash. So, that's pretty good speed. Just a high-level athlete, always around the ball. Just very good, just a playmaker as a safety. Obviously, he's going to need to bulk up. Being 6'4" at 180 pounds is kind of skinny, and he's skinny on film. Now, hopefully, when he bulks up, he keeps his athleticism and speed, which most people do today. But he's another guy that I would consider close to a 4-star talent. And these are just incredible hidden gems that Matt Campbell found. And like I said, coming from where they started behind the 8 ball with only one recruit and everybody already signed, it's an incredible job. The last guy I want to mention is Ben Whitver, receiver out of Virginia. This guy is really interesting because he's 6'2", 190 pounds. So he's got great size. He ran a 4.49 at an Under Armour camp. And at Under Armour, they do electronic timing, just like the NFL Combine. So that 4.49 is legit. And at 6'2", 190 pounds, that's very good speed. He is also, now he's only a 3-star. He's also Virginia's all-time leading receiver in yards. And he's 3rd all-time in Virginia in receptions. So he's got good speed. He's got good size. One of the most important things that I look for in receivers, besides just their physical tools of being big, fast, and their measurables, is are they good route runners? Do they understand the nuances to route running of how to beat man coverage, how to get off the press? He does. Like, this guy shows advanced route running ability. And what I don't understand is he hardly got any big offers. And you really got to, and I'm not saying that's a negative, because I know people get upset when you say the slightest thing that, they don't like hearing. But at 6'2", 190 pounds, Virginia's all-time leading receiver, runs a 4.4. Why would he not get bigger offers? Now, I could understand powerhouse schools like, other powerhouse schools at Ohio State or whatever, Michigan, Georgia, Bama, why they probably had guys in front of him. But the surprising thing was he didn't even get offers from like a Virginia, like being Virginia, from Virginia Tech, Virginia. You thought you would have saw some offers there. But either way, I think people slept on this guy. I think he's very underrated. In a lot of ways, his recruitment, totally different players, not the same, remind me of Parker Washington when Penn State had him. Parker Washington, who's having a really good NFL career, was really good at Penn State, was from Texas. Parker Washington, as a 4-star receiver in Texas, did not get any offers from any of the big Texas schools, any of the Big 12 schools, SMU, Texas Tech, TCU. None of them offered him. And yet he went on. He was a great route runner. He, not a big guy, but he went on to have a really good career. So I'm hoping like this Ben Whitver, the recruitment kind of reminds me of that, where people are sleeping on him. And the other thing I'll say lastly is everything about Matt Campbell in the transfer portal and building this roster is all about size and physicality. And you see he wants to play big boy football, smash mouth, and he just loves size. Not just on the offensive line or defensive line, but you see it at corner, you see it at safety, you see it at receiver. They got two corners that are 6'2", 2 D backs that are 6'2", receiver that's 6'2", 6'3", one safety that's 6'4". So a big emphasis on size, but they got solid football players. Like, these guys are good athletes. They're under the radar. He did an incredible job. Like I said, an incredible job starting off from scratch, pretty much. And I just think it's it's a testament to, like I said, Campbell and his staff just being able to find these hidden gems. So I'm happy. He did a great job.
For sure. I think that Ben Whitver guy, wasn't he committed to James Madison? I think it was.
Yes. Yeah. He was committed to James Madison. Then he flipped to Penn State.
Well, James Madison knows what they're doing, recruiting guys, apparently, with Curt Cignetti there and Bob Chesney there and everything else. So you know what? I'm cool with it. I'm good with the James Madison commit flip at this point. I'd probably prefer that from like a Virginia or Virginia Tech commit flip. But I guess I'll touch on Peyton Falzon real fast, because I think I know where you're at with him as a quarterback. And I think I've watched the film. I don't disagree with you on him as a quarterback. I do think that his future as a quarterback in college football is questionable. But what I do see in him is, a fringe 5-star athlete in him where he's 6'5", he can run like a receiver, but he has the size of a tight end out there. I think Matt Campbell and these guys are gonna, look at Peyton Falzon when he gets there and say, okay, maybe you can play quarterback a little bit, but then once it becomes clear, maybe Case Evans passes him up or somebody else, I think that they might have a real serious talk with Peyton Falzon and be like, look, dude, you're a fantastic athlete. We can use you in so many different ways other than quarterback because we got these other guys here. Go play tight end for us. Go play receiver for us. I mean, do you see what I'm seeing here?
Absolutely. And that's what all the talks about Falzon has been. Everybody, people in the industry and, there's some guys connected with some college coaches and scouts that I know of. They all said he's going to end up being a tight end. Every one of them says he's just going to end up, because just exactly what you said, great athlete can end up being a tight end. Players are stubborn. The kid grew up playing quarterback his whole life. He wants to be a quarterback. I get it. They'll give him a shot. But I just think those mechanics are going to be so hard to overcome. And he's just such a good athlete that ultimately I could. Most people are leaning that he will eventually be a tight end in college. Kind of reminds me, a lot worse mechanics, but athletically, of Tommy Stevens. You remember him at Penn State? A big 6'5" guy who could, 220 pounds, that could really run. And that's kid's a great athlete. I wish his mechanics were a little better because he would be hell of a quarterback. He'd be a great dual threat quarterback. But yeah, ultimately, I do agree with you. As do, like I said, most of the scouts in the industry. They all see him down the road, probably transitioning to a tight end.
All right, good stuff. That's your pretty much signing day recap for Penn State, as they were pretty much the only team in the Big Ten that was really signing some kids. Obviously, there were some signings and stuff like that. Michigan State got a receiver that was beneficial for them, and a few others here and there, but this was pretty much the biggest story on National Signing Day on Wednesday, so wanted to cover that. Chris, any final thoughts or anything about this Penn State class before we move on?
Yeah, I would like to touch on real quick the Michigan State receiver. So you're talking about Samson Gash. So Samson Gash, Franklin, for whatever reason, didn't really offer him. He came to camp at Penn State, and I guess he performed well, but he wasn't overwhelming, and they had some guys in front of him. He got fired. Campbell came in, immediately offered him. And his father, Sam Gash, was a former fullback for Penn State. But they came in so late that it was just hard to make up ground. But I'll tell you this, watching so much film for the past decade or so, there's guys on film that when you don't know their official testing numbers, their 40 time, could look like they're flying and look like they're a lot faster than what they are. And then there's the reverse where they look like they have okay speed, and then you see their time. You're like, holy shit. Now, I thought Samson Gash looked pretty fast on film. Not super fast, but just a good overall athlete. He has the state – he broke – the Michigan State title for the 100-meter dash. He ran a 10.41, and that is the official 100-meter dash record for Michigan. So would have been nice to be able to steal him, but like I said, there's too much ground to make up there in just a short time. The Campbell and those guys gave it their best effort, but it is what it is. Like I said, he did the best with what he had starting late. And, some of these guys are going to turn out to be pretty good ballers, I would predict.
I think you're right. I think that Penn State fans have, maybe not like a top 10 class or anything to look forward to, but here definitely a class that recovered well, and Matt Campbell was able to do some nice things with, find some hidden gems, and bring them into the program. All right. Thank you for listening to this segment here. We're going to move on to the next segment. We'll be right back. Now, Curt Cignetti isn't on a media tour like other head coaches who win a national championship, but he did get a chance to go on the Triple Option podcast with two-time national championship winning head coach Urban Meyer. In the interview, Coach Cignetti had a lot to say about his team in college football, and he defended the Hoosiers' schedule a little bit, even getting Urban to agree with him when Urban didn't necessarily agree at the beginning. So if you want to watch the full interview, I will go ahead and link that in the description below. To me, there were 3 highlights of the interview. The first one, Coach Cignetti was asked about tampering. Here is the clip.
Dabo, Coach Sweeney, the the NCAA right now is, it seems to me this is a slam dunk investigation that doesn't take 4.5 years to get. Are you experiencing this? I talked to a lot of friends still, and you say wild, wild west. Are you personally experiencing that nonsense, the tampering with the Indiana roster?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a guy last year offered $1 million, but he'd be shocked at the school. And, it's gone on this year. Guys walk in my office and talk to me. And, it's tough, man. It's hard. You got these agents calling everybody across America. How you love to play those guys. You try to do it the right way. But it's tough.
So Coach Cignetti deals with the tampering just like everybody else. Sorry for the audio cutting out there at the end. That was on their podcast, but I felt like it was notable because of the stigma many people have about Indiana that they just have, Mark Cuban and he can pay all the players and everything else. But Coach Cignetti doesn't run his program that way. Do players make money? Yes, of course. It's college football, everything else. Like players are going to make money, but there are many stories about college football revenue sharing and NIL about people spending the most money out there. On3 does stories about it, Front Office Sports, tons of people do stories about it. And Indiana is hardly ever up there. Just today, Pete Nakos wrote an article, and USC, Oregon, and even Washington were Big Ten teams that were mentioned. Your others were like Texas Tech, teams like that. But there was no mention of Indiana. Do Control F, no mention of Indiana. Coach Cignetti isn't out here paying for a title. He coached up his guys, developed players, James Madison, who followed him to Indiana, and he is going to continue to develop the next guys. I do wonder who that player is that was talking about who was offered $1 million and stuff like that. My first thought was like Carter Smith, because maybe he's an offensive lineman, they're more expensive, but I also could see teams wanting a guy like Elijah Surratt or D'Angelo Ponce or even Adam Fisher. I mean, I don't think a linebacker is out there making $1 million all that often, but he said you would be surprised by the school, so who knows? That'd be interesting too. But we may never know who it is. Let me know in the comments if you think you know who was offered $1 million off the Indiana roster, or maybe what school you think it was. I'm curious what you all think about that. Okay, now the next one is a bit of a two-parter. Coach Cignetti was asked about the portal and how he will use it in the future, and if he likes to continue the trend of getting QBs out of the portal. I thought this one was interesting.
One, in your transition from James Madison in Indiana, you leaned heavily into the transfer portal. Year two, last year, it felt like it was a little bit less, but the portal was still important. So here we are now, year three. Kind of take us to what the composition of this team is for year three and what you want it to be building it out a couple years.
Yeah, I think year one we took 32. Year two we took 22. This year we took 17. So you see that number going down as the high school recruiting builds up. And now that we're winning, the high school recruiting's getting better. It still takes those guys a little while to develop, and so that they can play winning football. And I don't care, a 24-year-old is going to play better than an 18-year-old. So I don't think you're ever going to see the day where you're not dabbling in the portal. And maybe next year we're at 14. Who knows? But you always have critical needs, and you always got to win every single year. That's just the way the business is now. So the foundation of the house is the high school recruiting, and that's picking up and getting better and better. But you got to supplement it with the portal guys.
Year three, three different quarterbacks. Can you sustain that? Or is that a model that you like going forward?
We have up to this point. I mean, since 19. Ben DiNucci was player of the year in the conference. 20, Cole Johnson, player of the year in the conference. And then Todd Centeio, 1-year transfer player of the year in the conference. And Jordan McLeod, 1-year transfer player of the year in the conference. And Curtis Work. He was not player of the year in the conference because Dylan Gabriel won the Heisman, but he led the country in QBR. And this year, Fernando Mendoza, obviously. So now we got Josh Hoover. And you build around the quarterback and the offensive talent, and get them to kind of play the way you want them to play and get them better. And, it all starts at that position.
Okay, so the first part was about the portal and recruiting. Coach Cignetti said he said what I've been suspicious about for a while, which is basically he doesn't want to live in the portal, but recognizes its importance. He couldn't get great recruits at first, but now you are seeing him go after highly rated players like Monshawn Sales, Jalen Brewster, and more. Now they aren't going to win them all. Obviously, Brewster is now committed to Texas Tech. I assume there was a lot of NIL money involved in that one that may have brought him there. Plus, he's from Texas. It makes sense. But they got him on campus once, maybe even twice. I can't remember exactly how many times. And I didn't think that would ever happen. I didn't think we'd ever see a top defensive lineman, one of the top recruits in the country, making a visit to Indiana like that. But here we are. I also didn't think they'd ever win the national championship, but here we are. So we're going to see Indiana continue to recruit and prioritize guys in recruiting. They like the portal. Like Coach Cignetti said, a 24-year-old is going to play better than an 18-year-old, but it just goes to show that Coach Cignetti knows you can't build a roster only through the portal. And if he's going to recruit, develop, and fill in spots as needed, he has to use the portal, but he also needs to build primarily through recruiting. The one area of the portal he is not shining away from, it sounds like, is the quarterback position. And I think this is where he's figured it out so well. Even going back to James Madison, using smaller programs to develop your quarterback for you, get them experience, maybe not develop them all the way. Obviously, he's a great QB developer. These guys don't come in as the number one quarterback in the country. And then go after guys early in the portal who aren't necessarily the number one or number two guys, but possess many skills and can be good decision makers with a good arm who can play within the offense. Coach Cignetti is looking like a QB guru right now, and I think he is. I think he is one of the QB gurus in all of college football. Tons of accolades for those guys, and at this point, if I'm a QB who started a couple years at a program that isn't able to win a national championship, or I don't think they're going to win a national championship, I'm thinking about going into the portal and see if Coach Cignetti is going to be willing to take a chance on me, because it might just be the best thing possible for my career. All right, another clip here. This is Coach Cignetti on his schedule. Take a look at this one, see what you think, and then we'll have a follow-up one after this.
I'm going to play who the AD says we're playing. I mean, North Texas 12-2, Western Kentucky 9-4. So, then we played nine Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
And
what's your AD's philosophy in it then?
I think right now the prevailing philosophy is the SEC's gone to 9, right? Conference games.
Mm-hmm.
10's at 9. And, okay, what you do in the Big Ten really matters a lot. Why make it harder on yourself?
Facts.
There you have it. Coach Cignetti, even Urban Meyer was saying facts. Coach Cignetti may have dominated the Big Ten last year, but he sees it as enough for them to be challenged. Why make it harder on yourself, he says. And to be honest, he's exactly right. Now, 5 or 10 years ago, he wouldn't be right. There wouldn't be enough contenders in the Big Ten for him to face to really challenge himself and his team. But now, with the conference being at its best, being the best in the nation, there's no need to challenge yourself more than you already have to, especially with a huge conference at the end of the year, a huge challenge at the end of the year. And the Big Ten will likely soon go to 10 conference games, which even gives you more opportunities to play some of the best teams in all of college football. I've talked about that a few times now, and I have no timetable for when we'll see that happen, but I know the Big Ten wants more conference games to sell to their TV companies, which we'll discuss here in the next segment, kind of get into some TV stuff there. But now, as a fan, I personally don't like it. As a fan, I want to see the big out of conference games. I want to see those big games. I want to see other conferences play other conferences and compare and contrast, do all those things. And so does Urban Meyer. But like Urban Meyer, I've come around to what Coach Cignetti is saying. And although I don't like it, I get it. And I think it is the right move. Here's what Urban Meyer had to say, as he tends to agree.
And I like the fact that Coach Cignetti was very clear. Who cares? I don't want to paraphrase him too much, but I get it. I respect it. I actually respect a person who just says that. He says the Big Ten Conference playing 9 games. They played Kennesaw State, Old Dominion, and Indiana State. I'll never forget that when I heard those 3 teams they played, and they won a national title. So I think unfortunately, because I do like those non-conference big games. I used to like it as a coach, and I love it now just watching. But I think those days are over, Mark.
I totally agree, Urban. I totally agree. So who cares what the schedule disparity says? Obviously, teams in weaker conferences will need to schedule key out-of-conference games to get their team ready to play at a high level. But in the Big Ten, we have at least 3 national championship contenders with 3 teams in the top 5 national championship odds on FanDuel. By comparison, the SEC has 1. That's right. Texas is the only team in the top 5 in national championship odds on FanDuel. So if you think Georgia or Alabama is going to win that national championship, go for it. I think you're wasting your money, but that's just me. we probably have 4 or 5 more that should be considered playoff contenders. Now, whether the rankings want to say they are or not, that's a different story. But good stuff here from Coach Cignetti. Very glad to have gotten to hear him on the show, hear the 2-time national championship coach Urban Meyer give his thoughts to maybe the next 2-time national championship coach we have in college football. Who knows? Okay, so be sure to like, subscribe, comment your thoughts down below. We'll be right back after this. We got some news on Wednesday from a Fox quarterly earnings call by CEO Lachlan Murdoch. On that call, Murdoch, who is, like I said, the CEO of Fox, discussed how NFL rights could increase as soon as next year. And if that happens, they are prepared for it. Here is a post by Joe Flint on X. Essentially, Fox is going to need to dump one of their live sports. They have to pay for the NFL, and the NFL is king. Maybe 1, maybe 2. Who knows what they'll do? But the NFL gets the best ratings, and there's no secret to that. People watch it the most, and there's a reason why college football, the college football playoffs, avoid it every year. Don't play on Thursdays, anything like that. I mean, obviously college football has some mid-season stuff, but I'm saying the playoffs don't play on Thursdays or anything like that, which is also a move by ESPN because they don't want to make the NFL mad, putting them in the same time, in the same situation as the NFL. So the question is, would Fox be willing to dump the Big Ten, possibly even dump Big Noon Kickoff for more money so they could utilize it for the NFL? And I think the first response is possibly, but I don't think it's very likely. Let's dig into it a little bit because Fox offers a variety of major sports with live coverage. Obviously, the NFL and the Big Ten. They have the Big 12 too, but it's not just those. They have Major League Baseball. They have the postseason for that. They have the FIFA World Cup, NASCAR, and more. Based on the information we have, the 2 groups that generate the most profit, not the most revenue, but the most profit for Fox are the NFL and Big Ten football, more than the MLB and including the MLB's postseason and everything that they have as well, more than the FIFA World Cup, more than all of it, definitely more than NASCAR. The only issue is that the rights fee, also known as how much money you have to spend to put the college football games on Fox, could be going up very soon, as my buddy Greg Pflugar stated on his recent show of Peek Around the Corner. Greg does a great job. Go check him out. And he expands on this a whole lot more in one of his recent episodes. Amazon and Netflix are possibly going to get involved with college football. And if Amazon targets the Big Ten, they could up the price for so much that Fox decides to say college football isn't worth it. We're not going to continue to pay these rights fees and maybe, have to punt on Big Noon Kickoff. Now, this couldn't happen this year. In other leagues, right fees are likely to increase as well as time goes on and everything. But the competition for live football is growing and the NFL being prioritized over everything else. We might see the Big Ten primary TV partner change. That's definitely a possibility for that to happen. You see, Big Noon Kickoff to go away, Fox doesn't necessarily have to go away from the Big Ten altogether. They have to lose their financial hold on the rest of the broadcasting companies to lose out on many of them for top games they put at noon. That's the whole reason they have Big Noon Kickoff, and they can use Big Noon Kickoff is because they get primarily the best games. Big Noon Kickoff only works if they are consistently getting the best or near the best games on their channel. And if CBS or Amazon or Peacock or NBC, whoever it might be, wants to start upping their offers, the Big Ten is going to do whatever makes them the most money. Now, Amazon could potentially sign a broadcasting deal with the Big Ten, though it would likely be limited to specific events rather than full season packages in the near term. Maybe when the TV deal opens back up, I think it's 2030 or 2031, something like that. But I don't think Amazon is going to come on and want to be the head of Big Ten football broadcasting like Fox is at this point. The conference's current 7-year media rights agreement worth $8 billion, and it runs through I think it runs through 2030. Don't quote me on that, but I think it does. It's primarily with Fox, CBS, and NBC, which handle the bulk of football and basketball broadcasts. However, there's flexibility for sub-licensing individual high-profile games, and active discussions are underway. Sub-licensing is just basically, we have this game, we are going to sell this game to you for you to put on your channel. You can make all the advertising fees and everything else. There's a multitude of reasons why companies do that. It's not because of anything bad. It's just, I mean, it could be, but that's not always why. For Amazon specifically, NBC has been in early stage talks to sub-license the 2026 Big Ten football championship game to Prime Video, with NBC reportedly seeking up to $70 million for rights. These negotiations were ongoing as of December 2025, despite potential opposition from Fox, who obviously doesn't want that to happen, and they hold the rights to more championship games under the deal and might not want to see a key event move to a streaming competitor. Essentially, they know what they have in the Big Ten and don't want Amazon to get a taste and see that this is a product they could invest heavily in, as Amazon is clearly willing to do so. They've spent billions of dollars in football, NFL football, and everything else. They are clearly willing to spend on football because it's making them money and getting their platform out there more for people to purchase. Netflix has also been approached for the 2026 championship game, but they have not seemed to be very interested in the Big Ten, as Amazon is much more so. That said, Netflix has explored other college football opportunities, such as streaming SEC games, or even the Notre Dame USC rivalry they were interested in at one point. So if Netflix sports strategy evolves further, a Big Ten tie-in isn't completely out of the question, especially as streaming platforms increasingly compete for premium content. Overall, while the Big Ten prioritized broadcast reach in its current deal, choosing the NBC over Amazon for one package, because Amazon was closely involved in this last time, the landscape is shifting as streaming rises up and becomes more utilized from all different kinds of people. Plus, the money is there. Streaming companies want to get involved, and although streaming might seem like less exposure, it will also likely mean more money. And the main conference broadcasting group, being Netflix or Amazon, seems unlikely, but sub-licensing or targeting deals for marquee games like the championship could happen sooner than people might think. And if either streaming company decides they want a piece of the pie, they get a taste and they say, I want more of this, I want all of this, it might not knock out Big Noon Kickoff entirely, but it could put a dent in it, as Fox might not be willing to pay higher rights fees for college football when they are certainly going to have to pay one, maybe even two higher rights fees for the NFL before the TV deal with the Big Ten is up in 2030. If I had to guess what's going to happen next, and I don't know this for sure. I don't think anybody knows this for sure, because I don't think Fox knows for sure what they're going to do. But if I had to guess what's happening here, I would say that Fox's FIFA Men's World Cup media rights are going to be up. They're probably going to go away. They're going to be up after the summer. And we already saw the Women's World Cup move from Fox to Netflix. And also, Fox is paying nearly the same amount annually in rights fees for NASCAR as it does for college football. And the revenue it gets is about half. The revenue they get from NASCAR is about half of what they get from college football. And so that's obviously no bueno, not a good situation for them. So Fox isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And although it is possible that Big Noon Kickoff might be impacted, it is still sitting in one of the safest, most promoted, most prominent slots in college football. Everybody knows what teams are likely going to be on Big Noon Kickoff, what teams they can expect, all that good stuff. So plus the goals of Fox and the Big Ten, honestly, they compare very well together, or they work together very well. They both want to compete with the other group. Fox wants to compete with ESPN. The Big Ten wants to compete with SEC. And so these goals align very closely. So buckle up, Big Ten fans. I think our big games are going to keep happening at noon with commentary from Gus and Joel for a while now. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. You like Gus Johnson? You like Joel Klatt? Let me know. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say, what your thoughts are, and possibly have the chance to buy you some home field. So go ahead and do that. If you don't comment, do use the link down in the description. Would definitely appreciate that. If you're going to go to the home field anyway and buy some, just use the link down below. That'll do it for this episode of the Big Ten Huddle. Thanks for being here and listening and watching the show. Have a good one. We'll see you next time.